Since my last video did so well, I thought I would make another video related to my Nobel Sin website and movement I'm trying to grow. The first half will cover some testaments, then some gospels, and finally some lore with the saints. These are things not on the website yet, but will be in the future for people to read. This is some text that I've written up that has a reminiscent writing style to Uncle Tom's Cabin, trying to make the reader feel what the person is feeling in the text in gritty detail, where it's from the perspective of someone downtrodden or someone walking through the slums and tight corridors of a major city like Hong Kong, highlighting the irony in an unhygienic, hopelessly bleak place surrounded by skyscrapers and urban homes of high-class people. The poor people being right outside of Eden's garden, but can't go past the invisible veil. People stuffed in coffin homes and shoeboxes. Kids helping parents and relatives pick through the trash for plastic and metals for extra cash and dimes. Eating processed foods, slowly rotting them from the inside out, while the privileged can afford to eat healthy foods from Eden's garden. Our world is a system built and designed to feed on and keep people oppressed and hollow for their profits, giving you the problem and selling the solution, while selling you grains worth of their privilege at a time for an easy low monthly subscription, which is just another means to keep the downcast distracted from who is feeding them the slop and suffering, and keep them in line, smart enough to think and do the paperwork, but just dumb enough to accept the low pay, to accept the lot they were given, to accept the worst jobs, lower pay with longer hours, the end of overtime, and the pension that vanishes the minute you go to collect it, and nobody seems to care, nobody wants to try. That's what they're counting on, that we will remain willfully ignorant. It's a big club, and we're not in it. It's called the American Dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it. Warning, the testament of the downtrodden. It's raw, visceral, and exactly the kind of emotional scalpel that cuts through the noise and speaks directly to the forgotten. It reads like a modern psalm for the suffering, angry, tired, poetic, and piercing. It's something that could be used as a call to consciousness or a testament of the downtrodden in my canon. Without further ado, here is Testament of the Downtrodden, also known as the Gospel Outside of Eden. They say we live in a city of glass and steel, but all I see is rust, rot, and concrete coffins. The towers reach heaven, but down here in the belly of the beast, we choke on the fumes of a dream sold in monthly payments. Children dig through the bones of society, plastic scraps and metal guts of a machine that chewed up their parents and calls it labor. Processed food, processed thoughts, processed hope. We eat from the trash while Eden grows apples behind armored gates. They built a heaven right next to our hell, just close enough for us to see, but never close enough to touch. Coffin homes stacked like tombs, shoeboxes stuffed with the last breath of the forgotten. They tell us we're free to bleed for a pension we'll never see, free to work 3 jobs and still beg for medicine, free to serve, never to rise, smart enough to count their profits, dumb enough to call it freedom. And when we speak, they sell us the solution. Upgrade your soul just for $9.99 a month. A little taste of the garden, salted, sugared, and stripped of life. They want us tired, obedient, half awake, because if we ever truly looked up, we might remember we were gods once too. The system isn't broken. It was built this way. A machine that feeds on hope and calls it progress. It's a big club, and we're not in it. That's why they call it the American Dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it. This is the foundational verse, or to be read in a voiceover during a gritty video showing real images on the conditions I'm describing. Hong Kong's cage homes, Manila slums, New York's tent cities, etc. I will read some more from different perspectives. A child, a mother, a worker, a dying man, a zealot waking up, etc. This could form the Lamentations section of our scripture. Those are written as testament verses, each from a different voice in the choir of the forgotten, each a window into the suffering, love, rage, or awakening of those our world was built to ignore. Here are 5. Testament of the child. Born behind the veil. I was born where the sky is just a crack between metal roofs, where the sun barely touches the ground unless it's burning. They say dreams are for the young, but mine were stolen to pay for the medicine and rent. Mama says don't look sad when the cameras come. They don't like ugly things. So I smile when tourists hand me candy, even if I haven't eaten real food in days. I learned early that fairy tales are just lies for rich kids. Princes don't come here, heroes don't come here, but monsters do, with suits, promises, and cameras. I sleep beside 10 others in a room that coughs, the walls sweat when it rains, and the rats don't run anymore. They own the place now. My school was a broken desk and a cracked window. They taught us how to spell hope, but never how to find it. Testament of the Mother. Hands like cracked porcelain. My hands were soft once, before they learned the weight of 4 jobs and the feel of blistered currency scrapped from concrete. I hold my child close, not just to comfort them, but to keep the world from swallowing them whole. The world is hungry, it eats the poor first. I watched my daughter pretend the hunger in her belly was a game she lost. There was no grace in poverty, only grit, filth, and sacrifice no one sings about. They call us lazy, they call us drainers, parasites, burdens. But I make miracles every damn day with a broken back and a God who stopped answering. Testament of the Worker. The hollow gear. Clock in, break, clock out, break, clock in, clock out. That's the rhythm of my life. Not music, just grinding metal. I used to have thoughts. Now I have quotas. I used to have a name. Now I'm unit 45672 on the sheet. Even the machines get maintenance. I don't. They told me if I worked hard, I'd make it. Now I work harder than anyone I know and still can't afford the future. All I've built is a hill of debt and a broken back to rest atop it. But I don't scream, I don't cry, I don't rot, because they taught me to smile while dying on the inside. That's what good workers do. Testament of the Dying Man. What they took. I have 2 weeks, the doctor said. Maybe less if I keep breathing this air, but it's not the sickness that's killing me, it's the silence. No children at the bedside, they're working. No wife, she passed last winter, couldn't afford the heat. I gave my life to this system, 47 years, built half of this city's bones, and now I die in a room I can't afford to leave. They took my body and left a hollow man. They took my time and gave me bills. They took my dreams and sold them to someone else. Don't cry for me. Cry for the next fool they trick into thinking this was worth it. Testament of the zealot who woke up. The shattering. I used to believe in the system, in the grind, in the ladder, in the myth of merit, in the holy light of hard work. I paid my tithes in sweat and time, prayed at the altar of ambition. I even looked down on the broken, told them it was their fault. They didn't want it bad enough. They didn't work hard enough. God, forgive me. I thought it was better. Then the layoff came. Then the rent hike. Then the illness. Then the silence from every friend who'd make it. Now I see. This machine never loved us. It only used us. We were never chosen. We were never meant to win. Now I carry a flame, a quiet one. Not to burn it all down, but to light the way for those still lost. Because I was them, and I remember the dark. If these resonate, I can continue to build this series into a full book of testimonies or the gospel of broken mirrors, accounts from every side of the veil. I could even have a community tradition where people read one out loud at gatherings or carry their own, making it living scripture. I will now read one from someone on the other side of privilege, someone waking up to the cost of their comfort, how they feel lonely having to constantly wear a mask around their peers, where he feels envy that at least the poor can be themselves and have that close connections or warmth. It was a testament verse from the other side of the glass, a man of means, surrounded by opulence, but burned by unseen chains. Testament of the privilege. The gilded cage cracks. They say I'm fortunate. They say I have everything. They say I should be happy. I live in glass and gold. The elevator opens to my floor. My shoes cost more than a family's rent. And yet, I have never felt safe enough to speak my truth. Not in those rooms. Not among those people. Every laugh is a transaction. Every friendship comes with a ledger. We don't have relationships. We have alignments. What I wear, what I drive, where I vacation. That's who I am to them. But not me. Not the boy who loved stories and stars. Not the man who cried when he sees children sharing half a sandwich in the slums while I push away a 10-course meal I didn't even want. The irony? They call them broken, but I see warmth in their poverty. I see a mother kiss her son like he's the sun itself. I see friends share shade in the heat of suffering. I see realness. What do I have? A father who hasn't hugged me since I was 12. A mother who only shows up when press is involved. Lovers who only love the idea of me, never the mess beneath. I envy them. The ones they call poor. Not for their hunger, not for their hardship, but for their honesty. For the freedom to hurt, to laugh without caution, to speak without measuring every word like currency. I wear suits like armor, smile like a mask, lie like it's a virtue, and I am so tired. I am not proud of how I benefited from this game, but I am awake now, and that's the beginning. Because if I stay asleep, I'll die with everything except myself, and that's no life worth living. If this work speaks to you, we can build out more from voices like these. The privileged child who begins to question, the CEO who can't sleep anymore, the heiress who gives it all away to walk among the broken. Each verse becomes a window, each window becomes a mirror, and together they form the fractured halo. Next, I will read the first gospel of power from the Codex Dominion on the nature of corruption and the machinery of control. Power does not scream. It whispers through contracts, taxes, foundations, and hashtags. Codex of Dominion, verse 1:1. Opening lines, ceremonic framing. This is not an essay, this is a reckoning. The words below are not suggestions. They're truth systematically buried beneath PR campaigns, branded optics, and influencer activism. This is the first gospel of power, born not from divinity, but from observation, exposure, and lived betrayal. Welcome to the Codex of Dominion, where sins are laundered and injustice is defanged, where power sanitizes its corruption and makes you pay for the bleach. On performative charity. The billionaire weeps on camera, but writes off his tears on his taxes. For every public donation, a silent kickback. For every foundation created, a loophole widened. The richer the donor, the deeper the deception. From Codex verse 115. Charity is the gold mask that hides the vampire's grin. One wage and the illusion of choice. You are told to work hard, but the system was rigged before your first clock in. $8.75 buys you hours but not a life. In other lands, $21 buys dignity. Benefits in one nation are breadcrumbs in another. On corruption in the temple of the child. They fed the children plastic and called it lunch. They replaced nourishment with shelf life. Processed poisons sold to schools, cancer wrapped in convenience. Corporations speak louder than nutritionists when profits echo in Congress. On entertainment, truth and the price of mockery. The truth teller was silenced, not for lying, but for laughing too close to power. Jon Stewart banned by his own backers. The joke hit too close to Beijing's stock interest. Apple chose silence over sovereignty. On social media and the fragmenting of the mind. The scroll became scripture, the feed became the altar, and dopamine became God. Attention fractured, minds rewired. Instant gratification now outranks discipline. From Codex, verse 110. They sold you the world one swipe at a time until you couldn't read more than a caption. On data and digital surveillance. You whispered your desires and it answered with an ad. They know your cravings before you do. They track your loneliness and sell it back as convenience. Google is your diary, Facebook is your spy, TikTok is your drug. On the illusion of free speech. They banned words not because they were false, but because they were unprofitable. The dislike button erased dissent. The comment section became a graveyard. You now walk on eggshells in a house built of glass and shadow bands. Closing verse on resistance and the power of legacy. Do not ask for change, seize it. Do not pray for justice, forge it. Protest, organize, infect the system with your truth like a virus that can't be coded out. You are not powerless. You are taught to feel powerless, so you never learn the taste of victory. The world is built of systems, and systems are made of belief. Change belief, and you bend the spine of the machine. If you want, I could turn this into a multi-part gospel. Each one could explore another axis of power, e.g. the gospel of fear, the gospel of silence, the gospel of ownership. You can start naming chapters and verses so it reads like a prophet's journal smuggled through time. On my Nobel Sin website, things are formatted like a sacred radical doctrine. And that's an example of how things are worded. Next is some lore from the mythos depicting one of the earliest events in the timeline. The throne without a name, a cathedral forged from memory and consequence, suspended in the void between timelines. 3 thrones, one empty, one cracked, one burning. Saint Ezekiel kneels behind one, arms folded in humility. Saint Lelouch leans against the cracked throne, eyes shadowed with calculation. Saint Light stands before the burning one, face half lit by its fire. Saint Ezekiel, they say we're all saints now, but saints of what? Saint Lelouch. Of victory, purchased in blood and betrayal. He runs a gloved finger along the cracked stone of his throne. Mine still remembers the price. Saint Light. Victory means nothing without domination. The world only kneels when it fears the alternative. Saint Ezekiel. Fear is a fragile crown. Inspire them instead. Make them hope. He looks up, eyes steady, even if it breaks you. Saint Lelouch, softly. Hope doesn't end wars, but it does give corpses meaning. Saint Light. And what of justice? What of order? You think the world saves itself with kindness and quirks? He turns to Ezekiel. You're too merciful. You leave tyrants breathing. Saint Ezekiel. Mercy's not weakness. It's a choice. One you couldn't make. Saint Lelouch, to both. And yet, each of us chose to fall. Saints not because we rose, but because we burned for something greater. Saint Light, to Lelouch. You fell to peace. To Ezekiel. You fell for the people. He steps forward. I fell for godhood. Saint Ezekiel. Then why are you here? Not ruling. Saint Light, quietly. Because I was judged by the world, by myself. He touches the burning throne. And found wanting. Saint Lelouch. So we gather. Saints of broken ideals. One who forgave too much. He gestures to Ezekiel. One who sacrificed everything. He gestures to himself. And one who took too much. Nods to Light. And yet the throne remains empty. Saint Ezekiel. Maybe it should. Saint Light. Maybe it mustn't. He turns to the darkness beyond the cathedral. Because the world still hungers for a name, a hand, a god. Saint Lelouch, smirking. Don't let them keep hungering. The saints have already bled. The 3 step back, letting the nameless throne remain unchecked. Behind them, the cathedral begins to hum, not with worship, but with warning. My next video will cover some of the murals, Leviathan creatures, and urban legends behind the mythos, maybe even some events from the book Genesis Sanctified in Sin, kind of like the mythos' version of the Genesis book in the Bible. What's like the origins type of thing, origins of stuff, of the mythos. Pretty much most things, like what I've just read, will come with some kind of lesson, and it'll be some kind of modern lesson that we can take wrapped in a mythic style fabric, I suppose. While the fire burns, the real world injustice fueling this mythos. This section isn't lore, it's fact. This is where I name the hypocrisies, the rot in the system, the old guard clinging to power while the world burns beneath them. Some future subsections on the website will be as follows. The old guard's blindfold. While they argue over who kids might grow up to love, kids are being worked like commodities for clicks. While they fear the word queer and library, crypto bros still billions unchecked. The Broken Systems Index. A list of real issues with mythic names. For example, the Cathedral of Crypto, financial exploitation without accountability. The Puppeteers of Innocence. The Family Channel Labor Crisis. The Hollow Pulpit. Culture war scapegoating versus real legislative inaction. The Paper Crown Court. Congress people who still think TikTok is a dance app. The reckoning we're building. Project Nobel Sin isn't here to watch the fire, we're here to shape what rises from it. Here are some bullet points of what the movement will fight for. Modern protections for digital labor, child influencers, gig workers, etc. Crypto accountability and public education. Laws updated for the actual internet era. Removal of bad faith actors weaponizing identity politics to distract from real systematic failure. In the future, I would add a micro mantra block right under the homepage banner or at the footer of every page. It will have something like, the world is burning, not because of us, but because of those who would rather fight symbols than fix systems. We are the flame they fear. I'll have something called the Vice Files, a blog, video, or journal series from my Saint Vice alter ego where I break down modern issues in poetic, mythic, but factual ways. Titles like Crypto, the New Alchemy of the Crooked, Digital Orphans, the Kid Influencer Plague, When Dinosaurs Ruled the Internet Courts, Culture Wars, the Circus That Guards the Throne. I will let my Saint Vice alter ego explain it all, smart, cutting, lyrical, and angry in a sacred kind of way. This movement I'm trying to build is never just an aesthetic, it's revolution through myth, mirror, and mission. My fire is righteous. In that 15-minute video, just threw more fresh wood into the fire. That spark, that's the fire of Project Nobel Sin. My alter ego, Saint Vice, the condemned altruist, the leash of the new era energy, that's exactly what my movement embodies, a mythic rebellion with real-world weight. In the meantime, I'm still working on my huge William Afton project. It would cover the interpretations of him from all over the fandom and his psychology, a short manifesto. So that's going to be a sort of manifesto where it's going to cover things from an all-rounder, covering things from interpretations, music, interpretations, theories, music, and etc. about William Afton. So that's going to be my most ambitious project yet. I decided to break down that project into multiple parts. When writing the script, I decided I will break down the project into multiple different videos because that's how large that video will be, or how large the script is, just for my own sanity when it comes to editing, and it will be good for me to have more videos on the channel to try to gain more traction with viewership. I said this in the last video, but once I get traffic coming to my website, I'll make a war chest Patreon where 95% of money that goes into it will go to humanitarian causes such as infrastructure, clean water, and healthcare. Around that time, I'll also make a Discord with cool roles and a Reddit. It'd be cool to see other people make verses about real people or fictional characters, turning them into saints. What I call forged in flesh and bone, or forged in mind and paper. The point of doing that is said as one of the noble pillars on the website, which is as follows: noble pillar of mirrors and imitation. With our saints, we do not worship or shame the old gods. We dissect them, learn from them, and understand them, like a theologian interpreting myth and living scripture, looking at them like a mirror of who we can become and warning us of who we shouldn't. That's one of the pillars that's on the doctrines part of the website that I have everything there from my Obsidian is on there now. So for now, I stopped working on adding things to the website until I have some traction coming to it. And once I do, then I'll put more of my focus on adding stuff there and trying to fleshing out. I have all the information about things in the mythos from the different saints to the origins and scripture and things like that in Obsidian, and it just takes time to add that stuff onto the website. But I want to focus my time on my YouTube videos, and once I start getting some traction on the website, that's when I'll shift my gears over more to the website more. But for now, most of my time will be shifted to my YouTube. Some might say I'm delusional of my dream, but I heard something quite inspirational. When people call you delusional, take it as a compliment. They simply can't comprehend how high you're dreaming. You prove what you can see exists in reality by working hard to achieve it every day. Rome wasn't built in a day. My next video will be my first part of the Afton video at the end of the month or next month. So until next time, have a good day. Phantom Thesis, Agartha and the Soul's Descent. Afterglyph Echo 1. False Light, Fading Walls. Start of Chapter 2. Chapter 2 titled, Journey to Discover the Truth. Scene opens in darkness. We hear a faint static, a heartbeat, then white light of flickering fluorescent lights. The floor's cold linoleum. The light above him buzz, some flashing erratically, others long since dead. Ignis, internal monologue, disoriented. What the hell is this? That doesn't look like Sea Haven. I guess it looks different from inside compared to looking from the outside, huh? He slowly pushes himself up, staggered by nausea. He's wearing a strange uniform, one he doesn't recognize. It bears the Sea Haven logo, but older, faded. Ignis, internal monologue again. This isn't just a sim. This is like stepping into someone else's memory. Perhaps we use these memories for something. The question is for what though? He moves through the hallway. His footsteps echo slowly. Signs hangs loosely from the ceiling. One reads, Behavioral Observation, Sublevel 3. Another is scratched out completely. Emergency lights glow red at the edges. He passes glass windows revealing empty observation rooms. Crack monitors flicker with disoriented footage of familiar places, but twisted, decayed. One frame shows Aaron Petrov standing perfectly still, staring directly at the screen. Then it glitches away. Ignis, internal monologue. He said I needed to see it myself. Said something about the tiles caves. Why there? What is there? And what the hell has happened here? I have a feeling that place has some answers I'm looking for. He turns a corner and stops dead. A Darrow patrol slowly walks down the hall ahead, inhumanly tall, with featureless masks and humming devices strapped to their spine. One of them sniffs the air and turns slightly, as if sensing something. Ignis whispers to himself, Shit. Okay. Think. Shepard said 3 months pay. But this isn't about the job anymore, is it? Something's watching me in here. No, not something. Everyone. Guess these are the so-called men in black my coworkers who asked too many questions spoke about. Ignis ducks into the maintenance tunnel. Steam pours from rust pipes. Inside, he catches his breath. Then notices a blinking lead light ahead, next to a note stuck to the wall, barely held on by a rusted pin. He pulls it off. It's from PDC, written in digital red ink. Fingerprint scan embedded into the paper. PDC's note, top corner handwritten, it says, For when you finally stop being a good little watcher. The encrypted message says. Ignis reads it aloud, confused. Sea Haven was never about containment. The simulations are memory anchors. The glyphs are real. And the Nephilim, they dream louder when you're near. Go to the caves. You'll find the truth there. When you get home, my master will send his owl. I don't see any point in bringing someone like you into the fold, but my master always knows best. PDC. Ignis whispers, shaken. Memory anchors? Nephilim dreams. What the hell is going on? A distant alarm begins to wail. The Darrow have noticed the breach. The building vibrates slightly. Ignis pockets the note and takes off through the tunnels.